My name is Bethany Barnard. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And I've had several requests for this pop-up slider card that I've recently made at my Christmas in July retreat, which was held last Saturday. So I want to take you through that. If you're new to me, I'd love to have you visit me at my Facebook page, which is called Stamping in the Barnyard. And I'd love it even more if you would like my page and visit it once in a while. So this is the card that we're going to make today. I've had several cards requested from my event on Saturday, and I just wanted to share with you that they were all made, all the projects were made using this Window Wishes stamp set. Everyone who came to my Christmas in July retreat received this stamp set. I love it because there are 20 stamps inside this set. There are outdoor scenes with houses and cars and trees and snowbanks, but you can also do traditional still life type scenes with the candles and the swag and the wreath. I like that there are three possibilities for greetings on the outside: peace, from our hearts to yours, and merry wishes, but also 2 inside greetings that you can use in your cards. I feel like this is a stamp set that can be used over and over for several years before anyone would notice that the cards had any kind of similar stamp set that was used or theme that was going on. Additionally, this is a bundle, so you can save 10% on both the stamp set and the dies if you buy them together. The dies that are extra, as in there isn't a stamp that goes with it, are these window dies, and here's the other piece to that. So you have these 2 window dies, plus this bow. All the other things are stamps that it will cut out, including these snowbanks. Oh, actually, this is also an extra one. It's like a window sill that you can add to the window. So there's quite a few great dies as well, and I love the window die. I think there's so many scenes you can make using that window die, but there's not a stamp for a window. So if you like the window, you'll want to get the dies anyway. Honestly, I think you'll want to get the dies anyway. So this is such a great stamp set, and I don't want you to overlook it. And I know that the ladies who attended the Christmas in July retreat that we just recently had loved so many of the cards, and the cards are all so different. And I hope that over the course of this series of cards that I show you, you'll find the same thing. So I'm going to put this aside, and we're going to begin to make this card start to finish. So the things that you would need to make the card are, you're going to need a basic white piece that's a 1/4 sheet of cardstock. In other words, 5.5 by 4 1/4. You're going to need, this is shaded spruce, again 5.5 by 4 1/4. And then a piece of DSP. This comes from Santa Express, and it's a Poppy Parade piece. And this is cut at 4 inches by 5 1/4. I have all these measurements I'll put up here in a second, and you can snap a picture of it if you want so that you have those measurements. Plus another Whisper white piece. This measures 3 3/4 by 3 inches. And then I cut out a wreath and a bow. I'm going to stamp my wreath. I have stamped this freehand. It isn't that difficult, but I have my Stamparatus set up for when we make this card to stamp out the wreath. But you're also going to need the window cut through the white, basic white, and you'll get all of these pieces. And then you're going to have to, because you will additionally get a white frame that looks like this. So I cut this out of silver foil for this frame part of the window, and I did get all those little silver pieces at the same time, which I haven't used. I'll use them on a different project, but then I ran it through again with the basic white to get all of these pieces that we will put through on the inside. And then lastly, we have this green piece, which is 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And so that's everything cardstock wise that you will need to make this card, I did use this lovely label punch, or Label Me Lovely punch. That's you can find in our annual catalog, which I love, but there are other punches. You'll see when we use it, you could use other punches for that. And there's another punch that's new in our July to December mini catalog, and it's called Very Best Occasions Bundle. So it's a stamp set and a punch, or you can get the Very Best Trio punch is what it's called. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that when we are making the card and using it. So right now what I want to do is put these measurements in front of my camera so that if you would like to get these measurements in order to make the card, that I've held them out for you in order to do that. Okay, so we're gonna get started. And if you are interested in links to some of the other videos for cards that I made with Window Wishes, please get in touch with me at Stamping in the Barnyard, and I will help you to see how you can come across those. All right, now I am not, and you probably already can tell, I am not a computer whiz or a technical whiz, which is why I have to handwrite things rather than put them on the screen in other, you know, more neat ways, I would even say. But so we're gonna go ahead. I spend more time stamping than finding out about the latest technology, and that's I'm older too, so I love that people are able to do that, but it's not me, and I don't make a lot of videos, but this one has been requested by so many people that I have gone ahead and tried my hand at a video. I do have a couple out there, but really so few. The first thing we're gonna do is put the DSP onto our green piece here. And you can't just go around. Normally I would just have you put glue around the perimeter, but we really need glue because we're gonna be cutting through this, so we really need to cover the entire piece of DSP with the glue. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I just got myself a nice new bottle of this Tombow glue, which is really my favorite glue for holding. And it really is probably one of the cheaper adhesives that we have available as well. So once I've got all that glue where I want it, I'm gonna go ahead and hopefully center it onto my shaded spruce piece here. Okay, and in a minute, in fact, I'm going to move these pieces and I'm going to get some grid paper underneath me here. I thought you would see everything a little bit better on the color of my foam mat, but as we get messier throughout this card, it's always wise to have a piece of grid paper underneath. So I think you'll see me making this card a little bit better that way too. Okay, so we've put this DSP on here, and we can, I suppose the safest thing to do would be the cutting on the trimmer next. So that's what we're gonna do. And this is where my short-sightedness may come in as a handicap, but basically you need to remember 3/4 of an inch. You're gonna cut 3/4 of an inch from the sides, 3/4 of an inch down. So I'm gonna start at 3/4 of an inch here. I have to stand up to be able to see where 3/4 of an inch is. Here we go. And then I'm gonna, oops, that's the, well, there you go. That was the, I love that about the trimmer, that it does come with a cutting blade and a scoring blade. But we're gonna start at 3/4 of an inch, and then I am gonna cut all the way down to 4 3/4. 5.5 would be the end. So 3/4 to the end would be this. And then I'm going to go back up, because remember, you are cutting through 2 layers now, the DSP and the cardstock. So now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to put it back on this 3/4 of an inch line, starting now at 4 3/4. I'm going to go back up to 3/4 of an inch and back down again, just to make sure I'm getting through both of those layers. And then I'm going to turn it just in one direction. It doesn't matter if it's this way or this way at this point, unless your DSP has a direction, but mine doesn't. And then we're just going to match up these cuts we've already made from one side to the other. And if we don't get it all the way, we'll just take our snips to finish that out. I say that, and I'm realizing as I started with this film, my snips are halfway across the room, which is crazy, because who doesn't need snips when they're making a card? But look, I did it. Okay, so you can see it's just cut on 3 sides, 3/4 of an inch from either side, from the top and from the bottom. So the next thing that we need to do, which I like to do on my Simply Score, but for your benefit, I'm going to try to do it right here on my trimmer using this scoring blade. The first thing you want to do is at that 3/4 inch mark, again, you're gonna, and again, 3/4 of an inch down, but we're just gonna score it really well. So you can see how 3/4 of an inch is what you want to remember. And then at 1.5 inches, which puts it 3/4 of an inch up from where this was cut, we're gonna score again. And you can put this at 4 inches if that's easier for you. So it's 1.5 inches from this side, but it's only 3/4 of an inch up from here. And then what we're doing is we're scoring in between these 2 score marks, which I believe is, and I don't think it has to be exact, but when I did it on my scoring thing, well, we can find out too if it has to be exact, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 1/8 from either side, either from this fold or this cut. So at 2 1/8 from this fold. Yeah, so I want this fold at 2 1/8. So that puts it at the edge here at 2 7/8. So that should help you. And I'm just hoping I'm right that that's about halfway, because honestly, I don't remember. But I don't think it matters, and this is a way of finding that out too. Let me see, how does that look? Yeah, that's definitely not half. And I'm gonna go with that other half, because if you score this wrong, you're actually gonna be okay, because it's gonna get covered up, and it's not gonna be too, this is, you know, the problem is, you're gonna say, why wasn't she ready? I got so much ready. I spent an hour getting ready for this video, and as I said, I haven't done them a lot, and I've only got one bit of card ready. I actually even have a tip for you. Oh wait, it's between these 2. That's the problem. So we are going to, one of the reasons why I like this better on the Simply Scored, by the way, is it does do a deeper score, but I know that this is going to get bent that way, and I know this one that we did is going to get bent this way. I should be using my bone folder with you guys, because it really is better. But now I want basically for this to be in half again. So if I do this by hand, I can tell you guys exactly where that would be, that we would be scoring, so that you don't make that same mistake. That's your advantage. Okay, so you want to get the end of this card base to 2 3/8 and score this one place where I didn't have the right score mark for you. And I do apologize for that, and I hope you can still follow it. So this just shows you that even those of us who've been stamping for a long time don't always get it right. But so we've got a couple score marks here, but that's going to be covered, so I don't think it's even going to be a problem. So just to repeat, you're scoring between your cut marks, so that would be 3/4 of an inch down to either side, and then you're going to score at, put this on 4, so let's do that. You're going to put this at 3/4 of an inch and score just in between, not all the way on this side. And then you're going to score again at 2 3/8 here. And then you're going to score again at 4 inches. And then you'll have this cut piece. I hope that makes sense for you all. Anyway, then you can put your trimmer away. It's hard because I'm not used to using my trimmer. I like the Simply Scored so much better. Okay, so once you have that scored properly, then you can find your basic white piece here. And all we're going to do right now is line it up for the punch. And you need to make sure that you're punching. We could have punched first, but I'm afraid I would punch and then score on the wrong side, not paying attention. So the opposite side from where you have the opening, you're going to use your punch. And you could, as I said, you could use a circle punch and go halfway in. I like this Label Me Lovely punch for a lot of reasons. It can make nice tags and belly band things. But I'm cutting this, punching this right where the end of this, it sort of would make a big rectangle here. So it's got this scallop that's going to come up above, and that's what we're going to cut out, is this fancy scalloped look. And then it comes to the end. So now we're going to separate that, but you just needed that lined up for later on what we're doing with the card. So you can now take the basic white piece that you've just cut and move that to the side. And what we're going to do now is build this window scene onto this 2.5 by 3.5 piece of green cardstock. Okay, so this can be a bit tricky to adhere, and if you use our adhesive sheets on the back and put them on your silver foil before you run it through the Big Shot, then you could just peel that off. But I tend to remember that, because I have it all, but I tend to remember that I could have done that after I've already sent it through. So I'm just gonna do the tricky bit of using the wet Tombow glue and trying to get it on these thin pieces. I am so used to the glue and the mess that I'm not that bothered about, you know, how my fingers feel afterwards. If I think there's too much on here, I'll just get it off with my fingers, put it on my fingers, and in a minute, not yet, but in a minute, I'm gonna just wipe it off my fingers by rubbing it. It dries so quickly. I feel like it cleans my hands at the same time, but you know, I was one of those little kids who used to put Elmer's glue on my hand as well. Okay, so I'm gonna let that stick, but now's the time that I'm gonna just roll that adhesive off my hands, and then we can build up. The rest is much easier to adhere, and this being foil, it does show that glue, but I find if you just use a microfiber cloth on it, and even your finger if you've got the time, but this is coming up pretty nice actually, so I'm actually going to be okay with that. So that's our frame. I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to stamp these candles, and I'm using the Poppy Parade ink pad. I was going to get my take your pick tool as well. I love that. I just want to make sure this is pretty juicy stamp, and sometimes if it's too juicy I lose some of my detail in here, but I think I've got it figured out. So then I'm going to come in and I'm going to stamp my candles. See, it did fill in a little bit more than I wanted it to. That's what happens sometimes when your pad is so juicy. But you know, we have another side. I'm going to check it here again. See, it seems to do all right on this, but this paper is a little bit more absorbent than our white. Let's try that again. Okay, I'm really not happy with that. So I'm going to hit stop, and I'm going to get a plastic spoon. Actually, I have a plastic spoon right here, so I don't have to hit stop. I'm going to move that to the side, because one of the tricks you can do if your pad is too juicy is just press that ink down inside. And that usually will give you, so that's just a tip. See, you got a free tip in there. Hope that works out. And then I do just happen to have a spare piece of a window. If you can hang on a bit while I pull that out. Sure enough, here it is. I'm going to give it one more blast of my spoon while, because of the time that just took. Here we go. And let's see how that does. There you go. See, pressing that ink in with the back of this spoon was the trick. And it's easy to wipe off. You can just run it under water, but if you have like a baby wipe, you know, you can just get that cleaned up that way too. All right, so back to it. There's our candles. So that wasn't the fault of the stamp. That was the fault of my over juicy Poppy Parade. Okay, so now I'm going to use some of my Mango Melody for flames. And then we've got the candle flames. And then we're going to start to build this up. Here we go. So I need to put some, now I don't need to use glue all the way to the ends of the earth for the inside of this. If I just wiggle it around like that, it's going to be plenty to hold this in place. There we go. And now we get to do those tiny puzzle pieces. This is where my take your pick tool would be great to have on the video, but it's across the room. So we're gonna just keep it here. I'm not stamping at my craft room desk, and I think that makes a difference as to what's right at hand for me. So now I'm just going to put a little bit of glue inside all of these pieces. And you can see I'm just kind of doing a rectangle square type of thing. And then you just want to make sure that you're putting the right pieces into the right, see, like that's already wrong. It's like first grade puzzle pieces. You need to turn it this way, it actually goes over here. You know, this is about my speed for a puzzle. I'm not one who can do those 1,500 piece puzzles. But I'm glad I can do this window one. There we go. This really is easier with that take your pick tool. Okay. But then I would have to list that as a product I use too, and you know, it just goes on and on. Okay, so there's our window. Now you'll see, we're going to be putting this wreath on and this bow on to really build this up. So the next thing we're going to do is do the wreath on the Stamparatus. And I really love the Stamparatus. I think it's such a helpful tool, and you're going to see that for all the other cards that I made on the Christmas in July retreat. You'll see that I have a template here for some of the other pieces, but this one's for the wreath. And one of the things that I love that Stampin' Up! Has done, and I don't know if you can see it, you can definitely see it in the die. So let me show you with the die. Because like, if you want to know which side is up, it has this little arrow, and this would show you this is the top of the wreath. Not that it matters which way you hang the wreath, but once you have stamped it, you want to know, well, how do I line this up? And so it gives you these little pointers. And when I cut out the wreaths for my, here we go, for my ladies, I put this little dot right there at the top so that they would know that when they put it in this template, it should fit with that dot at the top. So there we go. So you see how that fits right in? And then I'm going to use my shaded spruce, ink up my wreath. I love this rich shaded spruce color. And then we'll close it. And I don't know if I got enough ink on this side, but that's the beauty of a Stamparatus. If I didn't, I could redo it, but actually it looks like it came out great. So I'm going to use that. Put my Stamparatus aside. Here we go. And I'm going to put my bow on it. So here's my bow. Oops. And this was cut out of the Poppy Parade cardstock. And remember, there is no stamp that's a bow. This is part of the die set. And you could always do a real bow out of ribbon or something. And then I'm going to just put this at the top. And then I wanted to give it a little bit of a pop-up here. So before I put this on my window here, I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this. So I'm grabbing those. And ooh, maybe I should use my mini ones. Okay, I'll do that. Fortunately, they're right here. I love that you can get the dimensionals in different sizes for these smaller places. And also, you know, we sell dimensionals in black too, so that you don't have this stark white on some of your cutouts that might be a darker color. Okay. And then again, if I had my take your pick, I could pull these up. But it's working pretty well with my fingernails tonight, so that's good. One more, there we go. So then we're just gonna put this on our window frame. Don't want it right into the flames of the candle. In fact, maybe I wish that I had put that candle a little bit lower. As you can see on here, I put it right at the bottom. I think I was still trying to figure out if I could get a good stamp there, and I put it a little higher up. But those are the kind of things I'll notice that other people won't notice. So I'm gonna leave it as is. And then we're gonna come back to the other pieces here. This is going to be glued on above this first fold, but only above, we're only going to glue it between this fold and this fold. So this is how you'll be folding your piece on the top. And I'm going to just put glue maybe 1/3 of the way up here to make sure that I don't go past this score mark. I say that and watch, I probably did anyway. Nope, I didn't. Okay. So I'm sitting this right here. I'm trying to center it and get the same bit of red designer paper on either side. And you can fold it flat while you're doing this part, making sure my fingers are clean and I'm not ruining my card. So that looks good. Okay, and now this is the mechanism piece. This is the basic white that is 3 3/4 by 3 inches. And I'm gonna stick it in my Very Best Trio punch and do the 2 outsides. And as I said, I could stick this in here and punch and get a slot for ribbon. I just don't know if I'm prepared to do that yet, so I'm not going to punch it at this time. I can always do that later because there will be room when it pulls out to do it later. I did want to take this opportunity though to tell you about the Very Best Trio punch, because it does have these 3 punches, but this one, depending on how you put your paper in, and I'll show you that, so this is kind of a commercial break. If I put this in with the long way here, so long way here, I get this straight edge, this half circle, and then straight down border. But now watch it, this way I'm coming in with the short end instead of this way with the long. But if I come in short, I flip it over, come in short, so that the short side's coming down here. Now you'll see that this is rounded and the half circle is here. So you can actually get, I don't know if you can see that, but you actually get a different kind of a punch depending on how you do it. So you do want to be consistent with the piece that you're putting out to make sure that you get the right punch on all 4 corners. But it does show you that you get these different punches. But on top of that, something I really like is that you get these corners. Because let's say this was a picture you wanted to put in an album, you could make these corners for your picture. Of course, they're sticking to my hands that have just a little bit of glue on them, right? Like that. So you get these little corner pieces. See, I can't keep them there because there we go. And then do the same, you know, down here. So you'd have these little corner frames for cards or pictures or anything you wanted to put up, and you could make them out of foil or something that would look really nice. So I just think this is a really great punch that you can use. All right, so after having done that, that's our commercial break to tell you about that punch. Oh, I didn't show you, so the commercial's still going. There is a stamp set that I just pushed aside. Okay, this is it. Very Best Occasion. So you have the Very Best Trio Punch and you have the Very Best Occasion stamp set. These are bundled in the July to December mini catalog. And I don't want you to miss it because I did my first run through. I knew I wanted to get the punch. When I saw it was part of the bundle, I thought, well, let me see what the other bundle piece is, because that way you get 10% off the stamp set and the punch. I had seen this Hollyberry, so I just immediately, in the big word Christmas, and I immediately thought this was a stamp set with lots of Christmas sayings, which it does have a couple. But I came back later and I read it more carefully, and it does have happy birthday, and it does have things to say on the inside, and it does have endlessly grateful. And I love this, thinking of you with comfort and love. So this actually covers a lot of greetings, although it does include Christmas as well. So don't make the mistake I made and think that this is just a Christmas sentiment or stamp set. It covers a multitude of occasions in there. So I just wanted to point that out to you as well, in case you want to get 10% off that. Okay, so I am going to take my shaded spruce and I am going to stamp, because this is sort of, it's not exactly, I cut these corners off, because you'll see when the mechanisms, when we glue it all together, that it actually has less to catch, because I've narrowed it by doing that. Plus it just is a little fancier, of course. But because of that, that's made this a little bit more rounded. So I like this sort of semicircle stamp that says, from our hearts to yours. I always think it's a good idea to stamp once on paper to make sure you're getting it the way you want it. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to stamp that. And so you can see that it's like sort of centered around that. And then I think it frames Merry Wishes. And I'm going to switch that now back to my Poppy Parade. I'm going to see if that ink rose too much to the top. And maybe just for safety reasons, I'll push it down again. You don't have to do this forever. In fact, I'd probably store this stamp set upside down for a while, because that's right side up. I know that's confusing. But eventually, you know, I'm going to be using this ink and this isn't going to be a problem. But for right now, it's still pretty juicy. Okay, so I'm using this Merry Wishes. And I'm putting it underneath. I'm using my grid paper because it helps me to line things up to make sure I'm straight. And then we have Merry Wishes. And then I'm going to do the rest of the stamping. It's actually not on this piece, and you'll see that once we put the card together. So what we need to do now is I'm going to flip this over. This really would have been well done with my bone folder, but there you go. I'm going to put glue just on this big long rectangle here. Okay. And then I'm going to attach upside down this stamped white piece that measures 3 3/4 by 3 inches. Now I know there are demonstrators out there that really do a much better job of their videos, and I guess they had to start at some point. I hope you'll be kind to me as I begin this journey. I'm thinking of just how many things I've had go wrong. Okay, so now when you line this up with the cut piece there, the white piece should end at the same point as your green piece does, okay? So that now you can see it here to pull out. And this is also where I was saying you could put that little slit to put ribbon to be able to pull it. I can't pull it yet because it's not really gonna work to pull. I mean, it kind of will if I put it down at the against something. And that's what we're doing next, is we're giving it something to be against it. So we're going to adhere it to this bottom white piece. Okay? And that's why we had to have these matching up. Now again, in order for this mechanism to work as we pull it, we have to keep the two sides free. So you're going to want to keep your glue right to the edge, and you're only going to do 3 sides. You're not going to put any glue along the top. All right. So here we have it. And one of the reasons why I love the liquid glue is because it does slide if we need it to, but it looks like I got it pretty much spot on here. Press it down, turn it over. If you want to, and I did, I trimmed the tiniest bit off of my white to make sure it didn't peek out on the other side of the green. So you can do that too if you want to. And then you'll see I can pull this and up it goes. Now we're gonna stamp in here. And the reason we don't stamp prior to putting that piece on is you can't really see what's going to be coming through on the window. So I'm going to get my stamps ready, and I'm going to stamp this long verse in green, mostly because I've got all this Poppy Parade around here, and I have it's going a little wonky, isn't it? So I have this Poppy Parade here. So there's so much red, that's why I've decided to put green on the inside. Not to mention my juicy Poppy Parade, right? Okay, so I want this whole saying to show, so I'm going to put it right here. May happy moments and wonderful memories be yours this season. And then I'm going to do trees. Now there's a stamp with just the one tree. And then there's also a stamp with two trees, and I'll do them on this side. There you go. And so that's the finished card. Really didn't take too long. And you can see that it goes back down, and it fits in a normal envelope. And then when they get it, you can either write pull here, or some people, as I said, they like to put a hole there and some ribbon to help people to know, but I'm hoping the notch is enough, and then it can sit up like that on their desk, and you can see it like that. And so there you have it. I know it wasn't a perfect video, but I hope you just would bear with me and give me some grace. But thank you for stopping by, and stop by my Stamping in the Barnyard and give me a like. Thank you.